The storm over Cathar IV looked alive. Bolts of green lightning forked across a bruised sky, carving jagged shadows over the horizon. Beneath the dying sun, the ground shifted in unnatural rhythms, as if the planet itself breathed. Out on the plain, the Hive dominated the landscape, a spire of blackened chitin and bone, pulsing faintly with bioluminescence, its ridges glistening in the rain like the ribs of a colossal beast. To the Galactic Council, this was a death world. To Captain Elias Ward, it was an unanswered question. The reports were all the same. Human colonies established on the planet's outskirts had gone silent within weeks. No signs of battle, no distress calls. Drone feeds ended in static mid-transmission, sometimes with faint, chittering echoes in the background. Other times with a single human scream cut short. Everyone assumed the insectoid swarm that built. The Hives was responsible. Everyone, except Ward. He stood inside the Council's forward command chamber, watching grainy footage of the Hive's breathing, the flicker of green light deep within its core. Around the holotable, admirals and envoys argued about orbital bombardment protocols. "Captain Ward," the Supreme Commander said, breaking the noise, "you're not here to suggest we negotiate with these things, are you?" Ward's eyes stayed on the rotating holo. "I'm suggesting we don't fire blind. Something's keeping them on this planet. They've made no moves beyond the surface, no expansion, no counterattack. That means something. Or it means they're waiting to overwhelm us," a Vakari general hissed. "We crush them now." Ward didn't look away from the holo. "Or it means they're hiding from something worse." The room went still. And that was when he said it. "I'll go in, alone." The response was immediate. "Suicide," one admiral spat. "That Hive is a meat grinder. Even drones vanish inside." Ward simply met their stares. "Then maybe they're not the ones doing the grinding." The dropship cut through the storm like a black arrow. The closer Ward got, the more the Hive dominated his view, its surface crawling with movement, spines flexing with each breath, sending a ripple through its alien architecture. His boots hit the mud with a wet crunch. The air here was heavier, thicker, laced with a faint chemical tang that made his tongue sting. His visor's filtration systems whined to keep up. The Hive's main entrance was a gaping maw. No, not a tunnel, but something that looked disturbingly alive. Serrated ridges ringed the opening like teeth, wet with resin that glistened under the stormlight. Every few seconds, the whole thing inhaled, pulling in gusts of rain and dust. Ward's HUD tagged the motion as biological respiration. "Command," Ward said into the comm. "This is Ward, reaching primary entrance." Static hissed in his ear. Then, nothing. The storm wasn't jamming his signal. Something in the Hive was. He drew his sidearm. Not to shoot, just to feel its weight in his palm. One step forward. Another. The teeth of the entrance didn't close on him. No rush of alien claws, no swarm. Just stillness, broken by the low, wet sound of the Hive breathing. The ground. Inside the threshold was not stone. It was hardened chitin, ridged like the inside of a throat. His boots sank into a patch of alien resin with a tacky sound. His helmet scanners flared. Movement. Dozens of shapes surrounding him in the darkness. He raised the weapon, muscles tense. The shapes moved closer, slow, deliberate, chittering softly. His light caught glints of multifaceted eyes, glistening mandibles. The swarm. Ward's breath came slow. One wrong twitch, and he'd be torn apart. Then, without warning, the swarm parted. As one, they moved aside, revealing a narrow, descending tunnel ahead. Ward's finger tightened on the trigger, but the creatures didn't lunge, didn't hiss. They waited. The tunnel ahead pulsed faintly with green light, like a heartbeat deep in the earth. Ward lowered the gun, just a fraction, and stepped forward. Behind him, the swarm closed ranks, sealing off the way back, and that was when Ward knew. He hadn't entered the Hive. The Hive had let him in. The tunnel swallowed Captain Elias Ward whole. Behind him, the swarm's bodies shifted with a faint, dry rasp, mandibles clicking in slow, deliberate rhythm like an alien heartbeat marking his retreat from the world he knew. The entrance was gone now, replaced by seamless chitin walls. The air inside was humid and sharp, carrying a scent halfway between burning metal and rotting fruit. His visor's display flickered, briefly glitching to static before stabilizing. Every surface seemed alive. Veins of bioluminescent fluid ran along the walls, their faint green glow pulsing in time with something deep below. The light was dim, just enough to illuminate the tunnel ahead and cast shifting shadows across his armor. Ward advanced carefully, his steps echoing in a strange, muffled way, swallowed by the Hive's flesh. A sound rippled through the darkness. Not footsteps, but a low, chittering vibration that seemed to come from every direction at once. He froze. The sound changed, not hostile, communicative. "Command," he whispered into his comm. "I'm deeper inside. Movement all around. They're not attacking." Nothing. Not even static this time. The Hive was dead silent to the outside world. The clicking grew louder, closer. Shadows shifted in the periphery of his light. His hand stayed on his sidearm, his breathing controlled. Then his HUD flared. Life signs. 132. They were all around him. Shapes emerged from the darkness, taller than him, leaner, their limbs jointed in unnatural ways. Each one's body glistened with dark resin, their carapaces shifting in the green light like liquid metal. Ward's pulse spiked, but he didn't lift the weapon. They weren't charging. Instead, they moved with an eerie synchronicity, circling, him in silence. He took a slow step forward. They moved, too, not blocking him, following. The deeper he went, the narrower the tunnel became. The air thickened, clinging to his skin under the armor. The walls closed in, not just physically, but in sensation. His skin prickled. His instincts screamed. That's when he realized. The walls were watching him. Clusters of small, multifaceted eyes protruded from the chitin, tracking his movement. The veins of light pulsed faster wherever his gaze lingered, as though the Hive responded to his attention. The swarm surrounding him clicked softly, their antennae twitching. Some tilted their heads in perfect unison, mirroring him. It was a test. He didn't know how he knew, only that something in the Hive's presence pressed that certainty into his mind. Ward's HUD pinged again. Heart rate change detected. The swarm reacted instantly, shifting their stance, matching his breathing, adjusting their distance to him as though calibrating to his physiology. "This isn't an ambush," Ward murmured. "It's a scan." The tunnel suddenly widened ahead into a yawning chamber. At its center, a pool of viscous green fluid rippled faintly. The swarm stopped at the chamber's threshold, leaving Ward alone to step forward. The light from the pool painted his armor in shifting emerald hues. Tiny motes of glowing spores drifted upward, catching in the humid air. He knelt beside the pool, dipping a gauntleted hand into it. The fluid was warm, almost body temperature, and vibrated faintly under his touch, like the hum of a distant engine. And then, he saw it. Not in the pool, but inside his own mind. A flash, skies burning red, an ocean boiling into steam, creatures, screaming in alien tones, shapes that were not the swarm tearing through everything alive. He stumbled back, his breathing ragged. The swarm behind him clicked sharply, their bodies tensing, reacting to his reaction. Ward looked at the tunnel. Ahead, the green light deepened into gold now, throbbing like a pulse. Whatever lay deeper wasn't just the Hive's heart. It was what the Hive wanted him to see. He glanced back at the silent ranks of insectoid warriors. None moved to stop him. Ward drew in a breath, tightened his grip on his sidearm, and stepped forward, into the gold-lit depths. The swarm followed. The deeper Captain Elias Ward went, the more the air itself seemed to push back. It wasn't resistance in the physical sense. It was pressure. A constant, invisible weight settling on his shoulders, seeping into his lungs, making each breath feel like he was inhaling the Hive's will. The gold-lit tunnel narrowed to a point where Ward had to angle his shoulders to pass. The walls bulged and contracted in slow rhythm, the way muscle might flex beneath skin. He realized he could hear the walls now, not just the clicking of distant swarm, but a low, wet sound beneath it. A heartbeat, not his own. The green veins along the tunnel brightened as he moved, flaring brightest when he touched them. And those clusters of small alien eyes, they weren't just watching anymore. They were blinking in unison. Ward slowed his pace. The swarm behind him mirrored. The movement instantly. It wasn't random. It was mimicry. His visor picked up faint pheromone traces in the air, microscopic clouds drifting toward him, reacting to his breath, his heat, his heartbeat. The Hive wasn't just looking at him, it was recording him, piece by piece. Feels like you're building a profile, Ward muttered under his breath, though he knew no human would hear. But for what? The air grew hotter. Moisture beaded inside his helmet. Then, without warning, the tunnel opened into a vast, circular chamber, and Ward froze. The walls here weren't walls at all. They were made of living bodies. Hundreds, no, thousands, of insectoid drones were fused into the chitin structure itself, their heads emerging from the surface, eyes half-lidded but aware. Some twitched faintly, mandibles flexing in silent recognition as Ward entered. Others exhaled thin streams of glowing vapor into the chamber, filling the air with a haze that caught the gold light in shifting, hypnotic patterns. The swarm escort fanned out behind him, clicking low and steady, like a protective barrier rather than a threat. Ward's boots sank slightly into the fleshy floor as he advanced to the center. Every step seemed amplified, echoed by a faint, synchronous ripple through the walls, as if the entire chamber had felt him move. Then, across the room, something moved. Two enormous points of golden light flared in the haze, each the size of his torso. They weren't lights, they were eyes. Ward's hand went to his weapon out of instinct, but he didn't draw it. Not yet. The eyes blinked slowly. Then, as the haze shifted, their owner came into view. She was immense. The Queen. Her body dwarfed. Everything around her. An armored form fused into the chamber itself, her segmented abdomen stretching into unseen depths beyond the walls. Her claws, large enough to crush a tank, rested motionless on the floor. Her mandibles twitched once, releasing a faint, resonant vibration that Ward felt more than heard. The chamber went utterly silent. The swarm behind Ward stopped moving entirely. The Queen's eyes locked on him, and Ward felt something slide into his mind. Not words, not images. More like impressions. A flicker of alien skies, the feeling of heat so intense it peeled flesh from bone, a choking blackness that swallowed worlds. The sound of something vast and hungry moving through the void. Ward staggered back a step, his visor flashing warnings about elevated neural activity. But the Queen's gaze didn't relent. The images sharpened, her hatchlings burned alive, by an enemy that wasn't human. Entire Hive structures ripped apart by weapons that dissolved matter like smoke. Ward's fists clenched. This wasn't an attack. This was a warning. The Queen shifted one claw, scraping it against the floor with a grinding sound that rattled through his bones. Ward understood the meaning in his gut. She wasn't asking for surrender. She was asking for alliance. His lips parted, but no words came. The gold glow around the Queen's eyes deepened, expectant, waiting. And that's when Ward felt the floor tremble beneath his feet, not from her, but from something deeper still. Something was coming. The sound from below was getting louder, not a simple rumble, but a tearing metallic shriek, like something massive clawing its way up through the planet's crust. Captain Elias Ward stood frozen in the Queen's chamber, every instinct screaming that nothing good was about to emerge. The swarm behind him remained deathly still, antennae trembling toward the source of the sound. Even the fused bodies in the walls had gone silent, their eyes dimming. The Queen did not move. Her colossal eyes, two golden suns in the gloom, remained, locked on Ward. The sound grew closer, reverberating up the fleshy floor, through his boots, into his bones. It was followed by a deep, resonant hum that made his visor glitch and his teeth ache. And then, without warning, her voice was in his head. Not sound, not language, but thought. "You are not the shadow we fear." Ward staggered back a step. "You can speak? We can make you understand." The impressions returned, clearer now, sharper. Images poured into his mind. The swarm's world of origin, teeming with life, a black tide in the sky, blotted with alien warships shaped like skeletal predators, fire raining down, the swarm scattering into the void. Ward's heart hammered. "What are they?" The Queen's mandibles twitched, releasing a faint hiss. "We have no word in your tongue." "We call them the Devourers." Ward saw them, machines and flesh fused together in impossible ways, their hulls bristling with organic tendrils that latched onto worlds and drained them dry. They didn't kill for territory. They didn't take prisoners. They consumed everything, leaving airless husks adrift in space. The Queen shifted her massive head, lowering it until her breath, thick with heat and the faint smell of scorched resin, washed over him. "We fled here. We hid. You came." Ward glanced around the chamber. "And you thought we were the same as them, until we watched." Her thought voice was deep, almost mournful. "You fight each other, but you also protect your kind. You do not consume all you see." The sound from below surged, so loud it vibrated the chamber's walls. Dust fell from the chitin ceiling. Somewhere far beneath them, something massive struck the Hive's foundation. The Queen's claws flexed slowly. "They are close now. We cannot hold them alone." Ward's mind raced. If these Devourers could do to a planet what he'd just seen in her memories, Earth wouldn't stand a chance, not without help. "You want an alliance?" Ward said flatly. Her golden eyes brightened, the light pulsing in rhythm with her words. "We offer strength. We offer knowledge of the Devourers. But we cannot speak to your kind. You can." Ward almost laughed. There was a bitter irony to it. "You've killed humans before. Colonists, soldiers. I've seen the reports. Those who attacked were not you," she replied. "They carried fear and fire into our hive. We returned both." Ward exhaled slowly, his mind spinning. The idea of walking back into human command with this story was absurd. They'd never believe it. They'd call it compromise, weakness, until the Devourers arrived, and by then it would be too late. The floor trembled violently again, nearly knocking him off his feet. The swarm behind him burst into frantic movement, clicking and screeching. The Bolke Queen's voice sharpened in his mind. "There is no more time. If you will stand with us, you must be marked." Before Ward could respond, her massive claw moved. It hovered above his chest plate, the tip glowing faintly with golden bioluminescence. "Wait!" She touched him. The mark burned cold, cutting through armor and into skin. His HUD exploded with alerts, neural spikes, signal surges. Alien harmonics flooded his comms, piggybacking onto human encryption channels. Ward gasped, staggering back. The mark on his chest glowed through his armor like a living emblem. Now you are ours, and we are yours, the queen said. Go, speak for us. The swarm parted behind him, revealing the tunnel out. The tearing sound from below became a deafening roar. Ward turned toward the exit, then froze. In the dark behind the queen, something moved, something far larger than her. The shadow behind the queen shifted again. Not the slow, deliberate movement of the swarm. This was twitching, spasmodic, wrong. It moved with a jerking, insectile crawl, but the sound it made was metallic, grating, like blades scraping across, steel. Captain Elias Ward's hand went to his sidearm, though some part of him knew the weapon was useless against something that could shake the hive like this. The queen's colossal head tilted toward the shadow, her antennae trembling. A low vibration rolled through the chamber, making the swarm in the walls click in agitation. "Go!" her voice thundered in his mind. "The Devourer's breach!" Ward took a step toward the exit tunnel, but before he moved farther, the queen lowered her. Claw again, swift and deliberate. It pressed against his chest plate a second time. The glow from the mark flared brighter, threads of golden light spreading across his armor like living veins. Ward hissed at the sensation. It wasn't pain so much as a cold rush, like ice water flooding straight into his bloodstream. "Why? They will know you are mine," she interrupted, "and that you speak for the hive." His HUD flickered violently, alien glyphs spilling across the display before resolving into something legible. Encrypted channel established. A heartbeat later, his comms crackled, human signal frequencies overlaid with alien harmonics. For the first time since entering the hive, Ward could transmit out. But who would believe him? The scraping metal shriek erupted again, closer now. The shadow in the far chamber resolved into a shape, an abomination of metal and sinew. Long-bladed limbs clanged against the floor as its head, nothing but a featureless armored dome, swung toward him. Its movement was too fast for its size. It lunged, not for Ward, but for the queen. The chamber exploded into chaos. Swarm warriors hurled themselves at the intruder, their claws raking sparks against its biomechanical armor. The fused bodies in the walls writhed, releasing torrents of burning acid that splattered against the thing's hide. The air filled with steam and the smell of scorched chitin. Ward didn't wait for the outcome. He bolted toward the tunnel, the golden glow of his mark cutting through the haze. The swarm in his path parted instantly, their multifaceted eyes fixed on him. The ground shook as more metallic shrieks echoed through the hive. There wasn't just one of those things. Halfway up the tunnel, Ward's comms flared, an unfamiliar human voice. "Captain Ward, this is command. Where the hell have you been? Your beacon just lit up." Ward didn't slow. "Listen to me. The swarm isn't our enemy. The real threat is here, in the hive right now. You need to—" The channel drowned in static, followed by a deafening impact from below that nearly threw him off his feet. Dust rained from the tunnel ceiling. A green glow bled up the walls, then the tunnel behind him filled with the sound of clawed limbs scraping closer. He sprinted, the swarm ahead moving aside like a living tide. The golden mark on his chest pulsed faster, in perfect sync with his pounding heart. A drone fell in beside him, easily matching his pace. Its chitin glistened with acid burns. It must have come from the fight in the queen's chamber. It clicked, sharply, gesturing with its head toward the surface. Ward didn't argue. The tunnel sloped upward, and the air began to thin, losing the heavy chemical tang of the hive's depths. The storm's dim light flickered ahead. Then, silence. No more swarm, no more clicking. Ward burst out into the open air, rain lashing against his armor. Above, human warships loomed in low orbit, their weapons aimed directly at the hive spire. His comm roared back to life. "Captain Ward, stand clear. We are initiating bombardment." He froze, chest heaving, water streaming down the golden mark that still glowed like a living ember. If they fired now, the Queen and any hope of alliance would be gone, and the Devourers would consume them all. The first scream didn't sound human. It cut through the storm like tearing metal, so loud Ward felt it in his teeth. He spun toward the Hive's entrance just as a devourer burst from the tunnel, half mechanical, half flesh, its bladed forelimbs snapping open like guillotines. Steam rose from its body, rain hissing as it hit superheated plating. Ward's comms were still filled with Command's voice. "Captain, repeat. Clear the area. Fire control is negative." Ward snapped, stepping forward, placing himself between the Hive and the warships overhead. "If you fire, you're killing the wrong enemy." "Ward, that's an active hostile. Step aside." The Devourer's featureless dome head swiveled toward him. No eyes, no mouth. Just smooth, armored death. Its bladed limbs clicked once, then it lunged. Ward dove sideways, mud splattering across his visor as a blade gouged the ground where he'd stood. The creature pivoted with unnatural speed, but before it could strike again, a dozen swarm warriors poured from the Hive, chittering war cries. They hit the Devourer in a coordinated strike, acid spraying from their mandibles, claws raking sparks from its armor. The warships above shifted position, target locks retuning on both the swarm and the Devourer. "Command, listen to me," Ward shouted over the noise. "Those things aren't the Hive. They're what the Hive's been hiding from. There's a whole fleet of them inbound. I've seen their memories. They'll strip Earth to bedrock." Static. Then cold. "You have no authority to alter this operation." Ward's jaw clenched. He knew the kind of thinking in that voice. Cautious, bureaucratic, the kind that killed allies before it understood them. The Devourer slammed one swarm warrior into the mud, with enough force to crack its carapace. Another tried to climb its back but was impaled on a retractable spike that punched out from the thing's spine. Ward's instincts screamed at him to join the fight, but there was a bigger enemy right now, and it wasn't on the ground. He switched to an open frequency, letting the alien harmonics from the Queen's mark carry in his voice. "This is Captain Ward to all human forces. Stand down. The Hive is an ally. The enemy is here. If you fire, you're clearing the way for our extinction." Mark on his chest pulsed harder, threads of light running down his arms and legs. Somewhere deep inside the Hive, he felt the Queen pushing her presence into the signal, flooding the airwaves with alien resonance. The Devourer shrieked again, snapping a bladed arm toward Ward. A swarm drone intercepted it mid-strike, acid pouring from its mandibles onto the blade, corroding it into slag. Ward heard command again, this time quieter, hesitant. "Captain, you're claiming contact? Cooperation?" "You're hearing her too," Ward said, his voice hard. "Now decide. Are you going to stand with us, or fire on both sides while the real enemy eats your ships out of orbit?" A pause. Long enough for another Devourer to emerge from the tunnel. This one was bigger, its armor wet with fresh gore from something it had torn through below. Above, the warships shifted formation, their targeting beams flickering. The decision was being made. The Queen's voice brushed against Ward's mind. "They come in numbers. Stop them here, or we both fall." Ward looked up at the ships. "You fire now," he told command, "and you'll kill the only ones who know how to beat them." Another pause. Then, "Standing down main battery. Ground forces deploying." Ward didn't have time to savor the victory. The larger Devourer had fixed on him now, and the swarm's defensive line was buckling. The ground shook, not from the creature's charge, but from something deeper. Ward's visor flashed a new contact. Multiple inbound objects. Orbital. Entry! He looked up. Through the storm clouds, dozens of black shapes punched into the atmosphere, leaving trails of burning plasma behind them. The first wave of the Shadow Fleet had arrived. The first devourer from the sky hit like a meteor. It landed on the ridge above the Hive, soil and rock exploding outward in a shockwave that knocked Ward to one knee. Its body was even larger than the ones from the tunnels, 6 bladed limbs, armor plates like warship hulls, and a torso bristling with weapon growths that glowed a sickly green. The swarm reacted instantly, surging up the slope to meet it. Acid geysers burst from the ground as specialized drones detonated themselves under its limbs, taking chunks of armor with them. The air stank of burned flesh and melted metal. Overhead, human dropships punched through the storm, repulsors hissing steam as they slammed into the mud around the Hive. Their ramps dropped, and squads in heavy exo-armor poured out, weapons hot. For a split second, no one fired. Humans stared at the swarm stared back. Rain drummed on metal and chitin alike. Then Ward stepped forward, his golden chest mark, glowing like a beacon in the gloom. "They're with us!" he shouted. "If you shoot them, you're already dead!" A devourer shrieked behind him. The sound cut through the standoff like a whip crack. Human weapons swung toward the threat and lit up the ridge in a wall of plasma fire. The devourer charged, absorbing hit after hit before collapsing under combined swarm claws and human heavy cannons. No one cheered, because the others were still coming. From the burning clouds, a dozen more black shapes plunged down, each one trailing fire. They struck in a rough perimeter around the Hive, some smashing directly into the swampy ground, others tearing into the Hive walls with explosive force. Ward's comms flared with overlapping channels, human squad leaders calling for air support, swarm mines chittering tactical bursts directly into his head. It was chaos, but it was coordinated chaos. 2 human gunners took up positions beside a pair of swarm artillery beasts, their weapons firing in sync. A swarm flyer crashed beside a human medic's station, bleeding green ichor, and the medic didn't hesitate. He ran to seal the wound. This was working, for the moment. Then the Queen's voice roared in Ward's skull. "Beneath. They dig." Ward turned toward the Hive entrance just as the ground split open at his feet. A devourer erupted upward, shoving him back with a single blow from its limb. His armor's shield meter flashed crimson. He rolled to his feet, drew his sidearm, and emptied the magazine into the thing's headplate. It staggered, but didn't fall. Before it could strike again, a human trooper and a swarm warrior hit it from opposite sides, pinning it long enough for a human rocket to blow its torso apart. Ward barely had time to breathe before his HUD flashed. A new alert. Signature spike. Massive energy buildup. He looked up and froze. In orbit above them, the storm clouds briefly cleared, revealing something vast blocking out the stars. Not a warship. Something worse. A devourer command organism. Its body was a kilometer-long spear of black metal and bone, bristling with spines, its surface crawling with smaller shapes. It didn't descend, yet, but its arrival was a shadow across the entire battlefield. The Queen's voice was raw, urgent. That one commands the swarm that devours worlds. If it lands, the Hive falls. Ward's comm filled with human command chatter. "Captain Ward, identify that contact. Do we engage?" He stared at the looming shape in the sky, rain and fire reflecting. "Off his visor. You don't have enough guns to kill that thing," he said. "But maybe we do." The sky burned. The devourer command organism hovered in low orbit, blotting out the storm as it unfolded its weapon arrays. Each one pulsed with the same sickly green light Ward had seen in the smaller ones, but on a planetary scale. His HUD screamed, "Projected impact, total surface destruction. 4 minutes. The Queen's voice came like a blade to his mind. "We cannot reach it alone. Its shields are woven from the mines it consumes." Ward switched to the human command channel. "You still have your long-range ship killers?" "They won't punch through," Command said grimly. Not before it fires. Ward looked at the hive. Wall, a living mountain, bristling with biocannons the size of buildings. His eyes tracked along their arc, did the math. They could reach orbit, but they weren't synchronized, and half were buried in debris from the earlier strikes. Unless... Queen, Ward said aloud. Link every human targeting system to your gunners. We fire together. A beat of silence. Then her voice, dark, resonant, done. In an instant, Ward's HUD flared with hundreds of alien targeting reticles. Human ships in the upper atmosphere synced their firing solutions with swarm artillery beasts, and the overlapping data streamed into his visor. They had one shot. The ground shook. More devourers burst from beneath the mud, desperate to protect their master. Swarm warriors and human marines slammed into them in a brutal melee, claws ripping through armor, rifles firing point-blank into gaping maws. Ward fought in the mud, his chest mark blazing, every strike fueled by the knowledge that if this line broke, nothing on Earth would be left standing. Overhead, the command organism's main cannon began to glow brighter. To minus 60 seconds. Everyone, Ward roared, into the open channel. Hold the line. Fire on my mark. Not before. He saw a human heavy gunner fall under a devourer's blade, only for a swarm drone to tackle the creature, dragging it down in a spray of ichor. Nearby, a human medic and a swarm nurse beast knelt side by side over the wounded, both ignoring the rain of debris around them. The Queen's voice pressed into his mind again. The moment is now. Ward's targeting HUD locked green. His breath slowed. Mark. The battlefield erupted. From the ground, hundreds of bioplasma lances and human mass driver rounds screamed upward in perfect unison. In the upper atmosphere, human cruisers cut loose with their main batteries, their beams threading between alien plasma bolts in a deadly ballet. The command organism's shield flared, a wall of shimmering black. For a heartbeat, it held. Then the combined fire punched through. The blast lit the sky like a second sun. The Devourer ship's hull cracked open, and the sound that followed was not heard so much as felt. A psychic scream ripping through every mind on the field. The smaller Devourers froze, then convulsed violently, their blades twitching in death throes as the command link shattered. The massive corpse burned as it fell, breaking apart in the upper atmosphere, raining molten fragments into the distant ocean. Silence followed. Not victory cheers, just the ragged breaths of the living. Ward stood in the mud, visor cracked, armor scorched, surrounded by swarm and human alike. The Queen's presence brushed against his mind, softer now. The debt is equal. You walk away, with our respect. He nodded, knowing that whatever humanity thought of the swarm before, they would remember this day differently. And maybe, just maybe, that memory would last long enough to matter. The rain kept falling, washing the blood from the earth. Final moral. Enemies can become allies when the threat is great enough, and sometimes the only path to survival is to trust those you once feared more than death.